Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Front Porch Tailgate. I'm Michael Scott.
And I'm Byron Hazley. Welcome to the 37th episode of the podcast.
That's right. We have a great show lined up for you guys today. Byron, how you doing?
Mike, I'm doing good. I got to tell you here, we had to sit for the first 30 seconds of us going live. I was a bit worried something happened to your internet. But I'm doing well, my friend. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, my man. I was trying to tell you that,
Cheers.
It would take a few seconds for us to get in there. I'm drinking the water today. I'm going to need a stiff drink after this one. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah.
Other than that, though, how's your day been going?
It's been going good, man. Work's been going great. Life's been going great. I can't complain, man. How's everything your way? You getting lots of rest today, catching those Z's?
Yeah, I've been off since yesterday afternoon. So I've just been chilling at the house, taking it easy, working on the podcast, the blogs, all kinds of crazy stuff. And had a little bit of dinner, made some chicken and mixed it up with some ramen noodles. So you know what? It's going to be a great night.
Awesome. So what are we talking about today, Mike?
Well, we got a lot of things lined up for today's show. We're going to talk about the NFL and Roger Goodell's position that the NFL wronged Colin Kaepernick. We're also going to talk about all the reports of racism that are coming out right now, that racism exists in college football and basketball. We're going to also talk a little bit about the current state of some of the higher profile fighters in UFC. We're going to talk some Major League Baseball, and we're going to talk about the Dalvin Cook contract situation with the Minnesota Vikings.
Sounds great to me, my man. Let's get it going.
Let's get it going, baby. So Roger Goodell came out and basically let everybody know that the NFL was wrong in their decision-making with how they handled the Colin Kaepernick national anthem protest situation. Byron, what can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so Roger Goodell, he came out, I believe it was Friday evening. He made a speech from down in his man cave where he did the draft. He spoke and basically stated that the NFL made him, not basically, he did come out and state that the NFL made a mistake in the way that they handled the protesting situation. They did not name Colin Kaepernick specifically. They just talked about the peaceful protesting that was done amongst the league and how they changed and made a brand new rule so players could not do that. They either could stay in the locker room or come out on the field, and if they came out on the field, they were to stand. But basically stating that they're supporting the players and they're against, the systemic racism that's going on in America, and they want and they're for or against the injustices in the United States for today.
Interesting. And what was your initial reaction when you heard all that?
To me, that was a win. It's a small win, but it's a win, for them to change course from where they were 2 years ago, where you've got them basically backing everything that the president was saying at that time, coming out and saying, they did take a stance against him. I mean, all teams took a knee the next Sunday after he came out and said he would throw the players out, he would fire them or whatever. But shortly thereafter, they instituted new rules that would essentially do away with the kneeling protest. So, in my opinion, I think this is a victory towards the Black Lives Matter movement, and just the recognition, because it's going to take more than Black people taking a stance to see any change. It's going to take a significant amount of other individuals, particularly white individuals and white individuals in power, that can influence the decision makers that we vote into office. They have a strong influence on these politicians, and they're the ones who create these rules and laws that we have to abide by.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. It's funny that you say, white men in power or white individuals in power are some of the ones that can affect all this, because one of the guys that's been really silent on the entire situation at this point, who came out with such a strong stance regarding the protest, was Dallas Cowboys owner Jerry Jones. At this point, we haven't heard anything from Jerry, and he's been called out at numerous times by guys like Des Bryant, Richard Sherman in the past few days. What can you tell us about those situations?
Yeah, so I guess I can tell you as much as my 3-week-old son, which is nothing, because Jerry Jones has done exactly that. He hasn't come out and said anything admitting support for, towards the movement, towards the injustices that are happening in America here, supporting his players that he plays. He's got a mindset. I think he's got, I don't want to make allegations, so I'll just say he hasn't come out and spoke in support of his players and the NFL stance on this issue.
No, I agree with you, and I think it's really disappointing to see that at this point, because Jerry Jones is someone with a high level of influence, not only in the National Football League, but throughout America. This is a very well-respected businessman with a lot of money, capable of making a lot of change. Anytime this guy speaks, he's a lightning rod, and people are listening, whether it's good or bad or about something stupid he might have said, but he does have the ears of the people. Now, digressing back to Roger Goodell, this announcement was done without the knowledge of all the owners.
Correct.
Now, he checked with some of them, but what can you tell me about the owners' reaction to this message by Roger Goodell?
So I think some of them were surprised. I believe one of the ones that he did not check in with was Jerry Jones, but I know he spoke with Robert Kraft. He spoke with, I believe, not Art Rooney, but the Rooney family. It was a complete surprise for some of the owners to hear the support that the NFL was giving towards the cause, but you don't hear anyone coming out and saying, like, nope, I'm not backing that. But we also haven't heard from many owners in support of it.
Correct. Now, one of our listeners just chimed in that he believes Jerry Jones doesn't care about his players or the minorities in the NFL. Do you agree with that take?
That's obvious. He's always been about the bottom line. He wants to make money. This is a money maker for him. Jerry Jones is about his dollars. So if he can make money, he's going to make money. He's got, they call it Jerry's World, one of the biggest stadiums in the United States. He makes all kinds of money from the Cowboys, their memorabilia, their anything. They've got a huge fan base. They're down in Texas. So this guy is about his money, Mike. So that's what his number one thing is, making money.
Absolutely. Well,
that's my opinion. I mean, what's your thoughts, Mike? I'm not hearing anything from your end. You're asking me questions, but what are your take? What's your take?
I'm asking you right now. I'm trying to pick your brain, but I completely agree with you. Usually when you hear less from me, it's because I'm in agreement with you. Like I mentioned, Jerry Jones is very influential. He has not taken any action at this point, and it's disappointing to see that. And we should have known that this narrative was going to eventually pop up. Jerry Jones seems to be constantly pushing ratings and making headlines. And with all the things going on surrounding the George Floyd tragedy, the racial injustices, and the police brutality protests that are out there, we should have known that at this point the Dallas Cowboys and Jerry Jones would at some point show up. This comes on the heels of the Drew Brees news last week, where he actually reversed course now and has apologized for his stance or position regarding the protest of the national anthem. What did you think about that when Drew Brees basically switched gears?
That's a step in the right direction in my mind. If he's sincere about it, which he seems to be sincere about it, I don't know if he's influenced his wife, but his wife came out and made a statement recently, basically stating that we are the problem, talking about white people in America. We are the problem and holding themselves accountable. And then you see Drew Brees stepping out and speaking against Donald Trump when he came out and basically said that players should not kneel. He does not support kneeling. And Drew Brees said it's not about kneeling during the national anthem. That's not what this is about. It's about the injustices that his teammates, his brothers, that he calls them, they go out and battle with him each and every Sunday. He's supporting that cause.
No, absolutely. And Drew Brees is a leader. He's been a leader in New Orleans for close to 16, 17 years now. He's a big figure within the community, and he donates to a lot of charities. It seems like a majority of his teammates have accepted his apology. They've been working through this together in meetings over the past week. Do you see Drew Brees' position affecting the team at all moving forward into the regular season?
I don't think so. I mean, you might have, I don't know. I've seen a lot of players come out and support. A lot of the guys that were immediately came out and were against the words that he spoke. They've come out and since also reversed course and said, Drew's with us. He's our brother. We're going to move past this. We're moving forward. He's our guy. So I don't think.
And that's good.
That the team they'll see any issues.
Definitely. And it's good that the team believes in Drew Brees enough that they have that strength and unity. This is something that could have really, crippled the team and really got these guys off on the wrong foot. I mean, we all saw how the negative media coverage impacted the Cleveland Browns last season. Now, this is obviously a more veteran-laden team, but more times than less, when you have these off-the-field issues that enter the locker room and enter the practice field and enter, the arena on game day, more times than none, it ends up affecting these teams in a negative way. So that's why it's nice that the team's going to be able to work this out because, as you know, this could possibly be Drew Brees' final season for the New Orleans Saints, and they seem destined to try to make another run at a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Saints, their window is closing. They've been on the doorstep for a few years now. And as you know, that run is always short-lived with NFL teams outside of that team in New England. And we'll see how they do without Tom Brady this fall. But, they have to take the corrective actions to work as teammates and continue to grow and stay close-knit as a family. I know they recently had Shaq come on, and he said, hey, don't let the media come in and break you guys up. You guys need to support Drew Brees through this, be his support system. The media came and broke up me and Kobe. You guys stand together, stick together, and get through this.
Absolutely. Let's switch gears here. Another one of the big topics going on right now is the whispers of racism that are starting to appear throughout college football and college basketball. There's been a lot of things going on that started last week, basically at Clemson and Utah. There's also been issues at Iowa, Texas State, and North Carolina. Why don't you take us into what's going on with Iowa and Texas State and UNC?
Yeah, so you're seeing a lot of college or former college athletes coming out and they're talking about situations in which former coaches, assistant coaches, how they were treated while they were with the programs. I know specifically in Clemson, there's been allegations that one of the assistant coaches was dropping the N-bomb. There's been allegations that Dabo Swinney's been dropping the N-bomb. I know he came out and he sent a 15-minute video he posted online. He wasn't apologetic about it in his video. He was just more explaining the situation. So I don't know. Everything right now is allegations, but and there were no repercussions for the coach stating that, and I believe he openly admitted that that happened, but there were no repercussions taken.
So what had happened was Danny Pearman, he's an assistant coach with the team. They were on a different field from Dabo Swinney at the time. He was coaching one of his players, and the player dropped the N-bomb in reference to another player. Well, that coach responded by taking a stance to correct the young man that on that team they don't drop the N-bomb. And he actually said that. And it didn't sit well with some of the African-American players because, as you know, that's not an acceptable word for someone of the white community. And this was back in 2017. The team addressed it at the time. Dabo's went on record in the past few days vouching for the man's character. And really, instead of understanding what the world is going through right now and how this may just be another thing on top of a long list of unfortunate offense on behalf of minorities, Dabo Swinney is essentially taking this like, hey, this is an attack on my character, an attack on our program, instead of really understanding that he needs to address the situation. Because what you have now are both Deshaun Watson and DeAndre Hopkins, former, star Clemson Tigers, who are big-time names in the NFL, joining a petition to have the slavery-inspired homage at the University of Clemson removed from the college. That material still exists on their website, and one of the honors colleges is named after John C. Hopkins, who's a outspoken, notable slavery supporter and former slave owner, and part of the campus is actually built on plantation land donated by him. And so at this point, Dabo Swinney really needs to understand that he's a powerful figure as well, and he could really take action and help the school do away with these things and show people that he's not tone deaf to what our minorities are facing in society today.
But instead, he's doing the opposite.
Right.
He's more concerned about the continuity of his I guess you could say his staff than the players.
Right. And that's a problem, don't you think?
Yeah.
This is a man who's supposed to be one of our biggest leaders in college football. He's honestly the best coach in the business besides Nick Saban at Alabama. He's got Clemson on the brink of becoming the next major college football dynasty, and this is his response to the racism that exists within our country, and it's extremely disappointing to see. And I think, like a lot of experts have said in the past few days, he's never looked worse.
No, absolutely. He had a chance, and I mean, he's still got a chance, but his first swing at it was a swing and miss, in my opinion. He definitely could have shown a lot more support for his players, and I guess, how could I say this? Maybe back them a bit more than the course of action that he took. He was kind of, I guess, how would you say, standoffish maybe?
I would say he was insensitive to the entire situation.
Insensitive. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Insensitive. Because he addressed it. He wasn't standoffish. He did address it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a story that's going to continue to unfold like we mentioned earlier, there's been rumors that he's used, dropped the M-bomb at times at Clemson. So it remains to be seen where this will go. Now, Utah defensive coordinator Morgan Scalley, who's basically been with the Utah program as a player and coach dating back to the days of Alex Smith, also dropped the N-bomb in 2013 when sending a text to a player, and the school has since come out and suspended him while they're conducting a more thorough investigation. Kyle Whittingham did condemn racism that exists in our country with his statement, but at the same time, he also went on record, just like Dabo Swinney, defending the character of the individual in question. How do you feel about that when you hear that these coaches are dropping these slurs and then their, I guess, bosses are going out and vouching for the character of these men?
So I guess, Mike, from my stance, now that I think about it a little bit more, because at this point, everything's allegations. It's he said, she said, right? So until the investigation has been concluded, you can't really say definitively whether it was done or not. So I guess from that standpoint, if I was employed by, Dabo Swinney, if I was employed by Ken,
that's an allegation. At Clemson, that's an allegation. At Utah, the defensive coordinators openly admitted in a statement that he did use the slur. And that's why he's currently indefinitely suspended.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's not good. So, I mean, in that situation, I'm surprised that coach isn't moving on from him.
No, I completely agree with you. My initial reaction when I heard about these two specific stories is, why haven't these guys been fired yet? Obviously, they're going to look into what's going on at Clemson a little bit further, but with what's going on at Utah, these coaches are in a position like Jerry Jones we talked about earlier, where they need to take action and show the rest of the world and the college football universe that this behavior and that racism is unacceptable in today's society. And really, it seems like to me, both these coaches are attempting to sweep this under the rug and keep their coaches in with no repercussion. So
I disagree with the Utah coach, because I just read his statement, and he's not condoning it at all. He's saying he's disappointed and shocked to learn about the text. I take very seriously the hurt, pain, and anger felt by African Americans and the power of the word to inflict or deepen that pain. Although this incident is inconsistent with the character and conduct of the person I have known and worked with closely for more than 2 decades, Morgan's use of racist language is a very serious matter, and I am supportive of the suspension while a more thorough outside review is conducted. So in my mind, he's backing his players. He's saying, yeah, I've never seen this side of this guy, but the fact that he said it, he should be suspended. So, I mean, from this standpoint, I feel like he's taking a different stance than Dabo. But on Dabo's side,
I disagree with you, because I feel like actions speak louder than words. Right now, yeah, you do have an indefinite suspension, but I think in today's world with what's going on, I think it would make sense to take real action, immediately sever ties, because actions do speak louder than words. You can grab any PR team out there and put out a statement and make it sound good, but doing the right thing is what really matters most in this situation, specifically at Utah.
Yeah, but you also have to remember this is a public school, and they're trying not to be, caught up in a lawsuit, so they're going to go about things the right way. So they probably have to suspend him, have to do an investigation, and then he'll be terminated. I would be shocked if this guy returns, given that they have evidence of the situation, of the matter taking place. So I would be very shocked to see this guy return as a coach for Utah.
No, I completely agree with you. So what's going on with the Iowa strength and conditioning coach? What's going on at Texas State, and what's going on with the UNC women's basketball coach?
Yeah, so at Iowa State, their strength and conditioning coach, he has been suspended, he's been on a paid administrative leave while an internal investigation takes place. Kirk Ferentz has put this guy on administrative leave based on the independent review taking place. Basically, a number of black players have come out and said that he's shown basically prejudice and racist actions towards them. They said that things have been basically hell for them as they work out underneath this coach. It's completely different than the treatment that the white players receive there. At this point, these are allegations, but they took swift action, moved this guy to administrative leave, paid administrative leave, and they're investigating the situation. So we'll see what comes out of this, but it's not good because this guy has been with them for a number of years. So it's disappointing to hear, but glad that they're taking the right steps to investigate if this is true and move on from this guy. In addition, a couple of basketball teams have spoken out against coaches. So Texas State, their coach Danny Casper, he's had a couple of players come out and state that as a condition, he's made a lot of racist remarks, a lot of racist jokes, like I bet you'd be running faster if this was chicken. They said he dropped some N-bombs in practice. He's done a number of things to them during practice. And one of the former players came out and spoke against it. Right now it's all allegations, so we'll see where this ends up. And then legendary coach for North Carolina, the women's coach, there's been allegations of her using racially insensitive remarks. At this point, no further steps have been taken. She's received quite a bit of backlash online, but nothing from the school has taken place.
Gotcha. What I'm seeing here, what I'm thinking is that with the progress that's being made socially within the past few weeks and the strength of the protests and the movement, a lot of college athletes seem to be getting to the point where they feel a little bit more comfortable than they might have in the past. And they're starting to understand the strength that they have, and their voice is starting to grow louder and louder and louder. Do you think as time goes on, we're going to start seeing more of these stories coming out?
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure this is just, more and more people are going to come out, just like it always happens, like the Me Too movement, there's strength in numbers. So as one person comes out and starts speaking, more and more people will continue to come out and speak. I'd be surprised if we hear it from an actual player that's still on campus. I don't think we've really heard anything from players that are still on campus, but I think we'll continue to hear from former players under these coaches that have had such interactions, insensitive remarks, racist remarks, flat out using, slurs towards their athletes. It saddens me, but I'm glad, whatever you do in the dark always comes to light. So I'm glad that they're taking steps to get this corrected, because all these coaches, they play in people's lives. Huge factor.
Absolutely. These guys are leaders who are supposed to mentor and mold our young minds. And let's face it, these guys are student athletes. They go to college, one, to escape the lives that they live in, a lot of them, and potentially get themselves to a better situation, either academically or athletically. And some of these persecutions that they're facing on campus is completely unacceptable.
Yeah. Yep, agree.
So right now, just want to take it a second to hit the pause button. Make sure you guys are subscribing to the podcast. It's available on any of the major platforms out there. Also, make sure you're connecting with the Front Porch Tailgate on Facebook and Instagram. There's a lot of great content out there. And if you guys have any questions or comments throughout the show, please make sure you leave those in the chat, and we'll try to get you on or get your questions answered. Byron, it seems like a lot of the narration or stories that are coming through the media today are all surrounding athletes and how they can make a major impact in, the social movements that are currently going on. What do you think it's really going to take to get this thing blown up and kicked off and moving full steam ahead?
Say that again for me, Mike. I'm sorry. You broke up there.
So what I was saying was that athletes are some of the most powerful public figures that we have. What is it really going to take for these movements to start gaining full steam ahead, basically, and really take action and make progressive change?
So I think we've seen that already. Like, we've seen a number of athletes going out, they're marching with the peaceful protesters. They're going out and we're seeing changes. They're talking about, or not talking about, but we've seen some bills proposed to change some laws that are in effect to help protect the citizens. And, we'll continue to see things proposed over time, because that's how you see real changes in these laws that are written. So it's good that they're doing that. They just have to stay consistent with it. You can't just do this for 2 weeks and think that's going to have an everlasting change. You got to stay consistent. You got to constantly speak about it, utilize their platforms to bring this up. Until people get sick of hearing about it, they won't see change. So they have to stay consistent with it and not just think, oh, I can post on this for a couple of weeks and I'm good. No, you got to stay consistent.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. How's that drink going?
This is good, Mike. I'm drinking a little red wine. It's a blend. Very tasty, very tasty. I'm enjoying it. A little nightcap here. I also got some water, dehydrate, hydrate. We're staying alive over here, baby.
Absolutely. It's been pretty hot the past few days, at least over on my end. And I had a little too much to drink at my sister's this weekend, so I'm hydrating, trying to take it easy.
Man.
Got a long day at work tomorrow.
You got that 2 or 3 day hangover, huh? You got the old man hangover.
Yeah, well, what happened was I was drinking Tito's, and I started mixing the Tito's with those truly hard lemonade seltzer water deals,
Yeah.
And we had a fish fry on Saturday night, and let's just say Mikey got a little tuned up.
Yeah.
I was singing and thought I was a country singer, swinging softball bats around. It was pretty eventful. I haven't been that tuned up in a long time, but here I am, still alive, still
couch
happy.
Crashing?
And, you know what? I did not. I waited for a while before driving home, so I should have probably stayed on the couch.
Yeah.
But I had to work in the morning, so.
Oh man! All right, so where are we going from here, Mikey?
Definitely took a little bit of time to sober up, but probably could have used another hour. So, but anyway, switching gears here. Let's 6. So let's talk about the UFC and what's going on in UFC right now. So, what Dana White and the promotion is dealing with at the moment is a lot of their high-profile players, or fighters rather, either leaving or retiring from the promotion. Since last week, John Jones and Jorge Masvidal have both stated that they won't fight for UFC. They're in the middle of a contract dispute right now, each of them. And then Conor McGregor abruptly retired for the third time in 4 years over the weekend. Did you hear any of that news? And what were your thoughts?
I'm not surprised with Conor McGregor, to be honest with you. So McGregor, he's been a guy. I think he's retired 3 times over the last 18 months. He's fought maybe twice. So I'm not really surprised to see that happen. I think from that standpoint, he'll be back. Because Conor, he gets paid whatever he wants from the UFC. His issue isn't pay. Conor just likes, I feel like he's kind of an attention whore because he did it during the fight, if I'm not mistaken. He sent his tweet out during the main event.
Oh, really?
I believe so. So, I mean, I think he's a bit of an attention whore, but he gets the attention. So he's retiring. I think he'll be back. He's just waiting for someone worthwhile to fight, a big enough name to fight, because I don't think it'll be Khabib. I'd love it to be Khabib, but I don't think it's going to be Khabib.
Here's the thing with Conor McGregor. He's a businessman first and foremost at this point. And he likes to negotiate, and he likes to try to get as much of the pie as he can. Right now, he's a little upset because the UFC hasn't produced a fight for him since the Daniel Cerrone fight back at the turn of the year. Now, a lot of that has had to do with what's been going on with COVID-19. Conor McGregor's an international fighter and hasn't been able to get into the country like a lot of other international fighters, including Khabib. At one point, he did have the option to step in Khabib's place to fight Tony Ferguson. However, he declined that, saying that he wasn't a replacement fighter. So Justin Gaethje then steps in, beats Tony Ferguson, and now Gaethje's in line to fight Khabib, which that could have been Conor. So it seems like Conor at this point wanted to fight 3 or 4 times this year. Realistically, that's not going to happen. And if he's not serious about retiring, he's going to have to wait in line his turn to fight Khabib or Gaethje possibly. Other than that, he's going to be, taking part in legacy fights. Like it was rumored that he was supposed to fight Anderson Silva possibly. They agreed on Twitter, but nothing was formally done. And then also there's always the rumors about him fighting.
Wasn't that just a week ago?
Yeah, it was about 2 or 3 weeks ago that came out. So he's kind of just all over the place right now. And he's all over social media like a lot of the UFC fighters are. It's almost like they're constantly calling each other out on Twitter, hoping that they can spark some interest for a serious fight with the promotion. Now,
yeah.
Conor,
I was going to say, go ahead. I was going to say that Conor came out and said, he's been going through opponent options and there's nothing really there that excites him. That's why I think he might honestly be holding out for Khabib to lose and then him fight whoever wins the title. So he can replay the title.
It's really interesting because a lot of these fighters are very strategic about who they fight and when they fight. And it seems like what I've noticed, a lot of the guys that are at the top, they kind of have a tendency to dodge each other at times until either one of them's desperate and needs the fight or they're forced into the fight by Dana White. And right now, Dana White's not really forcing anyone into these fights because you have a collection of talent between Conor McGregor, Jorge Masvidal, Khabib, Tony Ferguson, Justin Gaethje, that all could just essentially be a division if they were to each move weight because they're all very close and eat each other alive. And I don't think the UFC necessarily wants to do that at this point.
Yeah, now, I know. I was going to say, I know Dana White, when asked immediately after the fight, he found out that McGregor had retired. He said, he's not putting pressure on anyone to fight at this time. He knows what's going on. We have a global pandemic, so he's not putting pressure on someone. If you don't want to fight and you want to retire, retire. He said he always goes, if you don't want to fight, then retire. That's his motto. No, and I think that's because Dana White has the mindset that
it's kind of like if this guy breaks, I'll just get another one. What the UFC is constantly doing is bringing up new fighters that are capable of grabbing headlines. You've seen it with Ronda Rousey. You've seen it with guys like GSP, BJ Penn, and others in the past. And now what you're starting to see is the same things with guys like Conor, John Jones, and Jorge Masvidal. Jorge Masvidal and John Jones specifically are in contract disputes. They're kind of lobbying, saying they're unhappy with the fact that UFC fighters only get 18% of the total revenue generated from fights and the ticket gate. And these are guys Dana White's come out and said both received new contracts within the last year, and both those guys were happy to sign those deals at the time. But I think you're seeing how much money the UFC is bringing in at these guys' expense. And these guys maybe are in the early stages of possibly unionizing, which the UFC fighters have been unable to do for a number of years now.
Right, because, you throw someone who hasn't hasn't been paid that much money in a long time, and you throw, 6 figures at them, they're going to take that money 10 times out of 10. So they'll always have those fighters that are willing to fight for the money, unless they can somehow, I don't know how they would do it. It would take a lot to get everyone to stand together as a union and say, you know what, we're not going to fight, because there's all types of guys out there just hoping to get a shot to fight, just hoping for it.
Well, if you take a look at the pay breakdown, some of your bigger fighters are in the 6-figure range. Your Conor McGregors are in the 7-figure range. And then your low-level fighters, some of those guys make 25 to 50, anywhere from $5 to $25 to $50,000 a fight. Now, that's not a lot of money when you're paying the guys in your corner, you're paying for training, you're paying for medical, and it's going to make it very difficult for these guys ever to unionize, because all it takes is for Dana White to come over and say, hey, do you want to fight this guy and get out of poverty, basically? Because everybody's hungry and looking for, to be on the come up. And if some of these higher profile fighters sit out, it's no thing to Dana White, because the UFC has proven time and time again that this is a league that can continue to exist after they lose a big-time fighter, which shouldn't be a surprise, because the same things happened all over pro sports, for years, like with the retirements of Gordie Howe, Wayne Gretzky in hockey, with the retirements of Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Kobe Bryant, Shaquille O'Neal in basketball, the retirements of, Derek Jeter, Barry Bonds, Alex Rodriguez, and, even some of your old-time guys like Mickey Mantle in baseball. None of these leagues are reliant on the employees. These teams are constantly reliant on the quality of the product, which is on the field or in the cage.
Absolutely. And, I just want to speak one thing against Jones and Masvidal. They just signed contracts in the last year. Did you not have a lawyer review it? Did you not do your due diligence before signing that contract? Like, to me, they got to take some self-fall. You can't put this all on the UFC. Yeah, this isn't something new that the fighters are only getting 18% of the revenue. That's not new. They've always been getting the lion's share of it. So why would you sign a contract that pays you X amount of dollars? Like, in their contract, it clearly states how much money they will get per fight. So why sign that if that's not something that you're willing to live up to a year from the time that you signed it? Like, to me, that doesn't make sense. Like, do your due diligence and live with the situation. It's kind of like that situation with Scottie Pippen and the Bulls. Like, yeah, you made a choice. Now you're going to piss and moan because you made that choice to get a deal, to get secure money? No, that's your choice. Live with it. Like, yeah, I get it's different than everyday living with you and I, but in my mind, honor your contract, man. Like, you signed it a year ago, honor it.
Well, here's the thing. Since then, what has changed? I know when John Jones was arrested a few months ago, one of the things that came out of the video of that incident is that he was on camera saying that he's a fighter and he gets punched in the face for a living. Now, I'm wondering if there's some underlying medical issues with John Jones, specifically pertaining to concussions, that might be motivating him to try to up his fight price, because at this point, the deal he signed a year ago is calling for John Jones to fight 8 more fights. And I don't think John Jones at this point has 8 fights left in him.
Again, read your contract. I mean, why would you sign that deal? It just doesn't make sense to me. If you in my mind, sign a 3-fight deal.
That's something that's happened for a long time with fighters. This dates back to boxing when, guys like Don King were getting over on multiple people all the time. And because these fighters weren't intelligent enough or didn't take the proper steps to seek legal representation to review the contracts and protect themselves. It's almost like they threw the paper in front of them. They said, okay, how much do I get for the fight? Cool, let's go.
Exactly.
And really,
you guys didn't learn anything from Floyd Mayweather?
That's not good business when you're handling yourself as a brand.
Exactly. Go talk to Floyd Mayweather. If you're going to be a professional fighter, go talk to Floyd and ask him how he made so much money, how he negotiated the deals that he negotiated. Especially if you're a high-profile fighter like John Jones, utilize the resources that you have. Don't just go rogue out here. I mean, he's got 2 brothers that are professional athletes. Talk to them. Talk to their agents. I mean, go fire your agent, John Jones. It's stupid.
You've got to think that a lot of these fighters see what Conor McGregor has been doing ever since he, I guess, mixed it up with Mayweather and maybe learned some of those negotiating tactics, because his cut of the gate and the pay-per-view has certainly gone up since returning to the UFC. Now, I just don't understand why these other guys think that they have enough juice to go out and do the same thing, because at this point, what they're basically saying is that they don't have options. Because where else are you going to go? There's no rival league. You can go into the bare-knuckle fighting championship, but it hurts bad enough getting hit with gloves on. Who wants to go out there and get hit with the real knuckles? Let's be honest.
I thought they had another UFC league. What's the name? Or not? Mixed martial arts. I thought there was one.
Came and gone. There is another league, but I guess the point I'm making is they're not going to earn the kind of
profile
in that league that they would in UFC. So you might as well, at that point, stay in the UFC, get your bread, and continue dealing with it until you can organize for the entire roster of over 600 fighters to essentially hold out and unionize and negotiate for a better cut than 18%. You really have no business talking. And in the event that you can get all those guys on the same page, that'll be monumental. And that'll be a huge step forward for the mixed martial artist in general. But at this point in time, these guys, John Jones, Jorge Masvidal, they don't really have enough heat to go battle against Dana White in the UFC. Because like we said, there's always those low-level fighters that are looking to come up.
Exactly. So, I mean, the UFC, no one's bigger than UFC. No one individual is bigger than UFC. They'll survive without McGregor. They'll survive without Bones Jones. They have, and they will. I mean, I feel like Bones Jones has been suspended just as long as he's been a professional fighter. He's had quite a few lengthy suspensions. And they'll survive without Masvidal additionally. So, I mean, to me, these guys need to figure it out. They had their opportunity to negotiate a deal, and they messed it up. Now they're pouring blue that they're not making enough money. Well, you should have done your due diligence up front. Do some research.
Yep. And meanwhile, John Jones is out there flexing on people during the protests, stealing spray paint cans. But let's switch gears here. Let's jump over to Major League Baseball. I don't know if you guys are aware of this right now, but for all you Detroit fans out there, the Detroit Tigers had the first overall pick tonight in the 2020 MLB draft. They drafted Arizona State first baseman Spencer Torkelson, the top power hitting prospect in all of college baseball. I'll raise my drink to that because let me tell you, these Tigers with the guys they drafted last year and this year, they might be hitting a lot of home runs out there at Comerica in the next few years. It's got me excited. What are your thoughts, Byron?
Oh, absolutely. I'm happy about this Torkelson guy. I don't like this third base talk. He's been a lifetime first baseman, and he's known most for his ability to hit the ball, although they said he did project as potential Gold Glove first baseman. So keep him at first base where he's comfortable and let him focus on raking because we need some hitters in Comerica. If anyone's seen the Tigers box scores, we need some hitters. They didn't have a single guy on their team last year that finished with more than 15 home runs. It was the league's worst in home runs. You know, we got to hit the ball. We got to do something to improve.
If you guys watched any of the Tigers games last year, it's not shocking at all that this team wound up with the first overall pick in the draft. They were absolutely dreadful. Basically, I didn't even want to watch them. They were so bad. It was terrible. It was worse than when I used to go to Comerica Park when it first opened for $12 with a ticket from my stepdad and sit in the first row right behind home plate because no one was there. And this team was worse because at least then we had Bobby Higginson who would at least entertain you when he missed running down a fly ball in the gap. You know, these guys, and let's go towards Alavila, the GM, Byron. Do you like the moves that he's made in the past two drafts and some of the trades he made at the deadline last season? What is your outlook or reaction to his performance lately?
So, I mean, they're in a full-on rebuild. They want to build organically. So I'm happy with the selections that they've made. You know, they've got a high-end prospect. They've built a lot of arms up through their system. They've got Casey Mize. I think he's a top 20 prospect. They've got all kinds of arm talent. They've really built up the pitching through the draft, and they're saying that they're going to spend coming up this summer, or not this summer, but this winter. So we'll see if he lives up to that, but hopefully he does end up spending because that's what they need. They need some bats now. I think their pitchers are basically on the brink, although not having a season this year will hurt the progression of the players significantly. So it may put us another year behind. However, I think they're a few years out from truly competing. So I like the direction in which they're going. Obviously, they're going to have to spend some money, and getting themselves out from contracts such as Jordan Zimmerman, Miguel Cabrera will help them move in the right direction.
Good gracious.
Yeah.
I don't know.
What are your thoughts, man? You don't sound as optimistic as I on the Tigers. And the moves that Alabama was made.
I like the pitching prospects that they have at AA, and I like the hitting prospects that they've managed to draft in the first two rounds of the past two seasons. And I like the pickup of Travis Demerit last year. The thing that concerns me, though, really is, are the Tigers going to be able to actually draw those marquee free agents to Detroit? Let's face it. It's not a huge media market. It's cold. And this isn't the same Tigers franchise that existed under Mike Ilitch in the past. Mike Ilitch was known as a guy that was able to go out there and throw a lot of money around to pursue championships with both the Detroit Red Wings and the Detroit Tigers. And it doesn't seem like at this point his son is necessarily in a position to do that. So it definitely concerns me, even if they do go out on the free agent market, what type of impact they will be able to have out on that battlefield.
Well, I feel like I've seen press conferences with Chris Ilitch, that's Mike Ilitch's son who runs the Tigers, and he said he knows, he understands how the fans feel, and he's made a vow to get them back in contention, that he wants to build organically. They're a smaller market team, so he's trying to get out from some of these larger contracts and get some more affordable contracts. So I think they're going to find themselves in a position where they can drop some coin on some guys on, 2-3 year deals as opposed to these 10-year, 7-year, 6-year deals that the Tigers signed these guys to.
They need to drop some coin on Miggy and let the guy get a coaching position because at this point he's done.
They've dropped enough coin on Miggy.
They need to drop some coin in regards to buying him out. Let's get this guy into the front office or onto the spring training, field, hitting grounders to all the up-and-comers because that's who we want to see on the field. We want to transition into a new era, and I have the most respect for Miggy, but let's face it, we can't watch any more wounded ducks flutter into right center.
Well, you also have to remember Detroit plays, not only is it a cold weather city, but it also has one of the largest ballparks in the MLB. I think it would make sense to me for them to move the fences in. Why are they playing? Make it hitter friendly. Why not? Home run tickets.
If you ask me,
they say chicks dig the long ball.
If you ask me, move it into 318 and turn it into Dodger Stadium, I'm all about it, baby. So let's switch gears here. ESPN's going to be airing Long Gone Summer this coming Sunday, June 14th. And what it's going to do is explore the Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa home run chase for Roger Maris's single-season home run record. Byron, are you at all excited about this?
I am. That kind of takes me back to my latter childhood, say early teenage years. So I remember that happening, and I remember loving watching it. I remember the next season, Sammy Sosa getting busted taking BP with a cork bat. The bat broke. He accidentally grabbed the bat or something. He brought it to hit in the game, and a pitcher sawed him off. The bat broke. It was corked. Yeah, I remember it all. So I'll be happy to get an inside look at what took place because I do remember that time. So it'll be nice to reminisce upon it. Kind of like that 98 season, the last dance with the Bulls. I remember seeing Michael Jordan hit that shot over Brian Russell. I remember watching that myself live. So it'll be cool to get an inside look at that season.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm excited to see it because when I think of professional baseball, the 98 home run chase and then the Barry Bonds home run chase a few years later are the two most memorable seasons of my childhood. And really, when I was a kid, I wasn't even going to play baseball anymore. I had actually took the year off, and Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa were doing their thing, and me and my brother decided we were out there in our field every single day trying to hit a tennis ball past the drainage ditch and playing home run derby because it was so exciting, and it's something that captivated America for all ages. And so it's a great memory for me, and it'll be exciting to get it, like you said, an inside look at it. My only concern really at this point is with what's occurred in The Last Dance and with the Lance Armstrong documentary release recently and some other things. I just hope there's not a ton of lying or things that happen behind the scenes, a more in-depth cheating than we initially thought with both those guys, because I don't know if I can handle it knowing that my entire sports childhood was all a lie.
Yeah, I mean, we both know that they were both juicing. I mean, you could take a side-by-side of what Mark McGwire looked like during that season and what he looks like today. Just sheer head size. That guy was juicing. Sammy Sosa looks like a different person now.
These guys looked like professional football players at the time. They were huge. And really, let me ask you this, Byron, because at the time, everybody in baseball was juicing. The league was struggling to get the fans back after the 94 strike. And all of a sudden, 96 comes and guys start beefing up and home run numbers are inflating. And then by 98, we have this full-fledged home run chase. Let me ask you this, because it's a huge topic in baseball. A lot of these guys from the steroids era have been blackballed from the Hall of Fame. Do you think that these guys from this era deserve to be kept out?
No, absolutely not. I mean, at the time, I don't feel, was it illegal at the time? I mean, in the United States, I believe it was illegal to take steroids by law, but I don't believe that they had any rules in place in the MLB at the time that would have hindered these guys from taking steroids, and that's why they were taking steroids. So to me, I think they should all be in the Hall of Fame. All those guys deserving of it. Like, if you had the numbers to prove it, like me, Barry Bonds should have been a first ballot Hall of Famer. First ballot. Roger Clemens, first ballot. Those are guys that deserve to be in the MLB. Sammy Sosa, not so much. Mark McGwire, he's borderline. He's got the numbers over time. So I say he gets in, but maybe not a first ballot guy. But there's players that are being blackballed out that I think should be in without a shadow of a doubt.
I completely agree with you. These guys essentially were doing the same thing everybody in baseball was doing, and the owners turned a blind eye to it because ticket sales were up. They were selling more beers, selling more hot dogs, and everybody was happy, really. Why? I guess it's a thing with the sports writers, who the sports writers are going to continue to hold this over people's heads. And really, it's a shame, because some of these guys, despite, being juicing and hitting 60, 70 home runs, they were incredible baseball players that would have still managed to hit 40 or 15 home runs, or 40 or 50 home runs a year if they were in fact clean. So I don't think it really makes a lot of sense to necessarily keep these guys out of the Hall of Fame.
Right, because, I mean, the steroids just allowed them to hit the ball further, but
right,
they still had raw power without it.
All right, Barry Bonds is probably one of the top 3 greatest hitters ever to play the game, and he was that long before he ever started juicing, in my opinion. This guy had won multiple MVPs. And speaking of Barry Bonds, the Tigers' #1 overall draft pick, Spencer Torkelson, actually broke Bonds'
all his home
single-season
run records
at Arizona State. So
he
that's
broke
exciting
them all
as well.
He broke them all, career too.
If we can get him to the Motor City, get the fences moved in, and get him on the juice, we're going to win a couple of banners. Let me tell you that.
Takes more than one guy, but it's a start, baby. I'll take it.
We'll get them all on the juice. Bring Pudge back. He's got connections. So we're winding down the show here. Make sure you guys are sharing the live stream with your friends. Also, make sure you're subscribing to the podcast. It's available on all social media platforms. And make sure you're leaving your comments with us on Facebook and that you're connecting with us on social media. That's one of the main reasons why we're going to live stream here in the future moving forward. Now, Byron, we've got a little bit of NFL news for our final take. Dalvin Cook, running back for the Minnesota Vikings, is planning to hold out until he gets a new deal. It's been rumored that he's requested an average of $16 million a season, which is in the same range that Christian McCaffrey just signed for. What was your initial reaction when you heard this?
He's crazy. I don't believe Dalvin Cook's made it through a full season yet. Even the year that he had last year, he didn't play all 16. He missed the last couple of games of the season. Christian McCaffrey, that guy's a horse. He's out there every Sunday giving it his all, getting 20 to 25 touches a game, taking a beating, and that guy is earning his paycheck. To me, Dalvin, he's got to do more. He's got to show more consistently. Like, try playing a couple of full seasons before you decide to hold out. Now, with that said, I understand the running back position is has a short shelf life, right? So those guys, their prime is much shorter than other players, and they kind of turn and burn that position. So I understand from the standpoint that he wants to get his money while he's at that time, like age-wise, where he should get paid. But if I'm the owner, I'm like, you got to show me more than what you show me to get paid. If I'm the Vikings, I'm playing hardball with this guy. It's got to be another Le'Veon Bell situation. Like, you're just going to sit out the season then, and you'll owe us money.
You know, this is Marshawn Lynch's fault. You know, he came out at the end of last season and told everybody they needed to take care of their chicken. And really, you got guys like Dalvin Cook out here holding out for more chicken now? Like,
see, but that's not what Marshawn was talking about, though. Marshawn was talking about managing money.
Yeah, hey, at the end of the day, whatever it is, this guy thinks he's managing money because obviously he's not getting enough. He's holding out. And really, you know, I understand the business of being a running back, but who's next? I mean, it trickles down the line. Are we going to see a guy like Bo Scarborough hold out next? Are we going to see a guy, you know, like some low-level guy holding out for, you know, a $5 million contract? I think it's getting a little ridiculous, honestly. And when you're a high-level running back, I understand. You got to take care of yourself. But what makes Dalvin Cook think that he is anywhere in the same ballpark as Christian McCaffrey or a guy like Derrick Henry, who still hasn't got a new contract after the performance he put up last season? You got to be kidding.
Mike, I'm with you. Yeah. And this is the last year of his rookie deal, too. Although the team does have an option for the 5th year because I believe he was a first-round pick, if I'm not mistaken. Was he a first-round pick? No. No, he was a second-round pick, so he doesn't have the 5th-year option. So this is the last year of his rookie deal. Just play it out and don't sign the UFA. Don't sign the franchise tag. Just move on. Well, tell him, hey, if you franchise me, I'm not going to sign it.
Well, listen.
Because then you have leverage.
Let's take a step back here for a second, and let's look at this from a fan's perspective, okay? So when I say fan's perspective, I mean fan of a Detroit Lions football team. So I'm not at all mad about the fact that this guy's sitting out. I hope he sits out all season long and then comes back week 12 and breaks his leg, okay? And then when I'm thinking about the Green Bay Packers, they went out and drafted a project quarterback in the first round of the draft. So we don't got to worry about those guys this year. They haven't really seemed to get any better on paper. And I think it was a stretch that they even made the NFC Championship last season. And then when I'm thinking about the Chicago Bears, they don't even know who their quarterback's going to be. And so what we have here, Byron, is an opportunity, a full-fledged opportunity on hand for the Detroit Lions to make a run for the first time in years, since I think 1993, make a run at an NFC North Division championship. I don't know what they got to do in Minnesota to keep Dalvin Cook off the field, but whoever the GM is, make sure you don't pay that guy. Don't pay him.
It's Spielman. It's Spielman, isn't it?
I don't know who it is, man.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's their GM. The Vikings GM is Spielman, so that's Chris Spielman's brother, Rick Spielman. So I believe maybe Chris can put in a little call to him, you know, and say, "Hey, man, how about letting my Lions get a little share of the pie here?" You know. I wouldn't mind it. I'm with you, Mike. I was thinking about it the other day. You got Aaron Rodgers he's not happy with what the Green Bay Packers did, leaving him kind of high and dry at the wide receiver position. And then you got the Bears. I'm hoping they roll with Mitch Trubisky. I can't see your sign here. What's it say? Lions to the Super Bowl. Oh, man.
Don't pay Lions to the Super Bowl.
Man.
Don't pay them.
Don't pay Dalvin Cook. Lions to the Super Bowl. Mike, I'm gonna get you some new dry erase board markers. That was not a good visual. So we got to get you some fresh markers that haven't been dried out. But I'm supporting that, Mike. They can run up against my boy Pat Mahomes, my Mahomie, and we'll see how things end up there. But I'm all for it. I'm hyping. I'm on that hype train, Mike. I'm with you.
Absolutely. We got some new comments coming in here. Hold on one second. Michael Thomas is saying, go Honolulu Blue. And he's saying Dalvin Cook wants too much money. I completely agree with Mike. I really think Dalvin Cook needs to have his leg broken so he can take some time to sit and think about what it is he's asking for.
I'm not wishing that on the man. I am not wishing that the man gets hurt. No.
In all seriousness, I don't want the guy to break his leg, but come on, you got to sit here and think about what exactly you're asking. You're not Christian McCaffrey. You're Dalvin Cook. What you're suffering is an identity crisis.
Now, I will say, if you look at his per game, I think they're comparable to Christian McCaffrey's. From that standpoint.
We're going to take a quick second here. We're winding down. It's the end of the show. Do you guys out there listening through the live stream have any questions? If so, put them in the chat box. We'd love to answer those for you. We're going to wait and see, Byron. Maybe they got a question. Maybe they don't. Clock is ticking, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, man.
All right, I'm not seeing anything, Byron. So with that being said,
wrap it up, baby.
We're going to wrap up the show. Byron, what do you have to say to our listeners out there?
Yeah, to the listeners, to the viewers, I want to thank you for tuning in. I want to thank you for listening to the podcast. Mike and I, we're consistently putting out new content weekly on Wednesdays. We just started this new live presentation of the podcast, so you'll be seeing more of that each and every week. So if you want to watch live, you can tune in around 8:30 or 9 p.m. on Wednesdays. We'll be going at you. But subscribe.
How do you feel about the live stream, Byron?
It's an adjustment, Mike. It's a bit different because I can hear you, but your visual's about a 5-second delay. So it's a bit weird to see, but I enjoy it. It's a bit different. We're adjusting. I like how we can see people's comments come up, and if we want to address them, we can address them. If we want to let it die, we can let it die. I'm excited to pull someone in live to our show. So maybe we can do that next week. We can pull someone else in live, someone commenting. But yeah, Mike, no complaints here, man. I enjoy it. I think this is awesome. Great find by you. But as always, Mike, again, want to thank the listeners for tuning in. Subscribe to the podcast. If you want to email us at frontporchtailgatepodcast@gmail.com. We'll read your emails, we'll respond to it. We may read it live on air. If you have comments, it pops up right on the screen for us. And if you really have a really good take, we might pull you in and have a discussion live with you on the podcast. When you see us post the podcast live to the various platforms for podcast hosting, share it, tag a friend. If you don't like it, someone else will. We love you. And we'll talk to you next week.
Yeah, with that being said, if any of you guys want to start a GoFundMe page to get me a new camera, because apparently it's shit, I'm all for it. With that being said,
it's your internet, Mike. It's your internet. But
with that being said, I'm Michael Scott.
And I'm Byron Hazley. Have a good night. Stay home. Well, you don't have to stay home anymore, but stay safe and be blessed. Stay safe, be blessed.
Have a great weekend.